It's been over 85 degrees in the air. The track temp has been well over 100. That means the grip levels have been relatively low. Earlier today, we had a 55-car race. We got from point A to point B in all of our 15 minutes without having any car contact, which was absolutely spectacular. However, there was some drama that we didn't actually see on the broadcast. There was a caution on the far side of the racetrack over in turn 10B, and we had 6 cars get disqualified for passing under the yellow. They were passing a lapped car while there was a yellow flag active. So Tom O'Gorman was third unofficially. He was actually advanced up to the race winner after Jeremy Swenson, Emil Tab, Andy Smedgard, and others were disqualified for passing under the yellow. They will start from the tail of the field. With the exception of Emil Tab, his situation was a little bit different. He got a point by from another lap car. Very confusing, but Emil Tab will get to keep his starting position a couple of rows back from the front. So we've got the cars rolling now on their second pace lap. Another spectacular pace car here this weekend. We had the Altamaniac earlier today, now a Dodge Viper out front for our pace vehicles. We've had the Wienermobile before. We've also had Lamborghini Huracan before. We've had the Altamaniac, and we also had a real old classic Chevy back at Blackhawk Farmers a couple weeks ago. So we had some really cool pace vehicles here in GLTC. But Nathan, this is a single class racing series. We race for 15-minute sprints. A super exciting race format, and I love this series because you can basically race anything you want, provided it's 12.5 pounds per horsepower or somewhere thereabouts. You get modifiers for your aerodynamics and any other performance-enhancing modifications to the car. It means the racing is super close, very competitive. We've got drivers who have run in World Challenge. We've got drivers who have run IMSA in this field, and they're very successful. We've also got basically everybody from all the other grassroots organizations in the country. It's a stacked grid with very, very talented drivers.
Yeah, I got to admit, we were here in 2019 for Midwest Festival for the kind of kickoff of GLTC, and to see where it started then, still impressive, and where it's grown now is just kind of mind-blowing. The level of prep on the cars, as you mentioned, the level of drivers, it's extremely competitive. Still, great vibe in the paddock, though. So very different from pro racing, and definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, I guess the focus on fun is something that has been a real pleasant change from a lot of other grassroots organizations that can feel super serious at times. Let me tell you, the racing is serious, but when you get off the racetrack and you can fist bump your buddies and share a beer after, that's the best part about GLTC. Got some on board. That's Eric Catil in the number 82 Hybrid Racing EG Civic. Now, Eric Catil's got a brand new livery on the car this week, so it looks spectacular. One of the best looking race cars I've seen in a long time. So he'll be starting up in the front couple rows. But Tom O'Gorman again with his second victory of his GLTC career after the changes and disqualifications from earlier in the afternoon. Got again about 55 cars starting here. And let's take a look here at the Gingerman Raceway track map here. 2.21 miles of racetrack here at Gingerman Raceway. 11 corners around here, Nathan. It all starts with a run up the hill and just a slight crest down into turn number 1, down a couple gears, then into 2 nearly identical right-handers, kind of double apex, a little bit funky, very flat corners as well before you get through turns 4, 5, and 6. That's a real tricky section.
Yeah, 4, 5, and 6 is a ton of fun. You basically go flat through 4, pitch it in. You can go really, really deep into 5, and you kind of, depending upon your car and how much power you have, you can kind of take a couple different lines through there. Great momentum through that section, and a ton of flow on this track. It's one of the things I really like about driving it. It really flows nicely, and it's fun to watch racing here.
Then through turns 8, 9, and 10, very, very fast corners. You're carrying a lot of speed. Then up onto the long back straightaway. That's where that trouble spot was earlier, getting people caught out by the yellow flag. Then turn 11, one of your best passing opportunities, and back onto the front straight here for GLTC. Now taking the green flag down, starting GLTC race number 2 of the weekend here at GRIDLIFE Spring Kickoff. Through turn 1, O'Gorman and Tab side by side. O'Gorman leads the way through. Alessandrini dropping some tires off. One car way wide. I think that's Eric Meadows who's dropped tires off in the dirt. But through turn 2, O'Gorman, Tab, and that's Aaron Lichty, last year's runner-up in the championship, and Ryan Upham side by side towards turn number 3. A frantic start here, as always, in GLTC.
Very frantic, but it looks like everybody kept it clean with the exception of that one car going off. Great to see the BMW up front, of course. We always root for that. Ryan's a great dude, and it's been fun hanging out with him a little bit today.
Yeah, those BMWs and a lot of the BMW M3 platforms have proved to be very, very competitive here in GLTC. For a while, it seemed like the smaller, lighter 4-cylinder cars were the ones that were the trickiest ones to beat. But lately, we've seen Heitcutter's 370, Swenson's Corvette, the M3 combinations. Those have really worked well in this series and have found their way to the front a whole bunch of times. Through turn number 7 now, O'Gorman continues to lead, but Tab has not left him far behind, and that K-powered Miata is ridiculously fast in a straight line. So look for turn number 11 to be a good passing zone. We saw Eric Catil hounding Joel Morrison in the 9 Lives Racing S2000. They're side by side now as they head down towards turn number 10B. And into that corner now. This is one of the slowest corners on the racetrack. You kind of drop off the cliff here, Nathan, before you get up onto the back straight.
Yeah, super tricky corner. You're going downhill there. You think you can go deeper than you really can, so it's real tricky not to go too deep and go off on that corner. I've almost done it a couple times myself this weekend.
I think that's Luke McGrew, a little bit slow coming off a 10B, going to lose some ground here. Changed to the number 7 coming into this event, and I was kind of joking. That car had a lot of issues with reliability last year and often left a smoke screen, so I was calling him 007 all year long. So glad that he's got that car reliable and also changed to a very fitting number. Lap 1 across the board. We have lost power here at the racetrack. We're running off a generator, so we will not have timing and scoring up on the screen for you. We'll do our best to keep you covered with all the action, but O'Gorman leads through turn number 2 in that ASM heel toe S2000 and looking really solid. Aaron Lichty still behind that M3 though. That car is so good in a straight line. Going to be tough for Aaron to get that pass done.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see Tom up front too. It's curious. He's on a little bit different tire and should see that car continue to come alive as we kind of go through the race today.
Saw a little bit of a smoke cloud. It might have just been some dust over at the exit of turn 1, so somebody might have had a bit of an off-road excursion. Easy to do here. The track is relatively wide in most areas, and there is some rumble strip there as O'Gorman gets right out to the edge of it, but in some areas, if you step over the limit, there's real deep ruts to the outside of the racetrack as well, Nathan.
Yeah, there really are. It's a super safe racetrack. There's not a lot to hit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a penalty if you do go off, and there's definitely some curbs out there and drop off.
Well, that's side by side for Aaron Lichty on the outside now of Ryan Upham through turn number 8. That's a gutsy pass all the way out to the track edge. He's got that pass done, and right behind him is Eric Catil in the hybrid racing EG on the brakes into 10B, and that's going to open up an opportunity to get that K-powered Civic up onto the back tailpipes of that red M3 down the backstretch. And look at the power again. I'm so impressed with Ryan Upham's build and how much that thing pulls on the straightaways. The different advantages, a slightly heavier car with more power versus a lighter car with less power. Look at the M3 just drive right by him.
Yeah, absolutely. I was curious to see if he could catch up and kind of tuck it back under the brakes.
Oh!
Almost did. Oh, a little bump there.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a dive by Aaron Lichty. You see the hand in the air. He definitely didn't mean to get in there that deep. Aaron Lichty is one of the few drivers. We got a caution flag waving and a debris flag waving for turn number 1, so potentially some fluid down. But Aaron Lichty is one of the few drivers out here that does not have ABS. Now we also see the pace car out on the racetrack. We are under full course yellow here. There's a car up at the exit of turn number, or towards the entry of turn number 3. I think that's Ben Dozman.
Oh,
ooh, that car is
fire.
Definitely has some smoke coming from it. That is Ben Dozman. And that is the Bad Company Racing number 0, and this is a real shame. This car had mechanical issues back at COTA. They rebuilt it just for this event, and it has gone up in smoke yet again. That's a real shame. That's
a really, really tough break. Everybody out here is working so hard, and when you have mechanical trouble at the track, it's always a bummer. You come back, you put all your time, effort, and kind of blood, sweat, and tears into it, so you hate to see that.
Yeah, that's really tough, but good to see Ben out of the car very quickly, and credit to the safety team for getting there. They were there before I even saw the pace car out, so that's pretty impressive. Yep. So we've got a slowdown here. We're going to bunch the field back up. Single file restart. Might take a couple laps to get this spill cleaned up, and we're not going to know exactly how much time we're going to have left in this race, but we should get at least a couple laps worth of racing. There's Brian Heitkotter way behind the field. That's an interesting one. He was started at the tail because of the DQ from earlier in the day. I would have expected him to drive forward, but looks like he's actually fallen back, so I'm not sure if he took a trip through pit lane or if he had looped it, but he's still got some work to do.
Yeah, Brian's a fantastic driver. Won the GT Academy, has raced GT3 cars and World Challenge, so he's certainly got the talent behind the wheel. The car is super fast. So yeah, I would expect to see him up a little bit further, but you never can tell what might have set him back a little. Yeah, so again, with 55 cars on the racetrack, hard to keep an eye on every single one. Even if you had a drone staring straight down all the time, you'd have trouble keeping up with everything. So Gingerman Raceway, here's a look at the shortcut. That's turn 10A. That's the original construction of this racetrack. And then about a decade and a half ago, they added this longer section, turn 10B. And we talked earlier about that dive down the hill. You actually lose a lot of visibility at the exit of this corner, climbing up. You see that little kink in the road. You can't really see what's on the other side of that, and that's where it caused some of that issue earlier in the day. But this racetrack actually races really, really well. Contrary to a lot of the drivers think this place is tricky to pass at, and I would agree, but it certainly bunches people up, and it makes it really, really fun to watch. Yeah, and it kind of has enough of a change and difference in corners that, obviously you have a ton of different platforms out there, different power levels, as you mentioned, different grip levels, so every car can kind of give and take in one section or another, and that's ultimately what gives you some of this great racing that we see.
For sure. While we're under caution here, we might as well talk a little bit FCP Euro.
Sure.
Obviously, you're a European parts distributor, and we work with you guys a lot. Great to have you here with us as we got the field pulling off. They might red flag this. We're towards the end of the day. We should have time to red flag this, clean this up, and get back green, but we'll see. But tell me a little bit about FCP Euro, the lifetime parts guarantee. That's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Take me through what you guys do.
So essentially, FCP Euro, we sell European car parts online. We mainly cater to all your major European makes, Audi, Volkswagen, BMW, Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, etc. We have a couple of different things, free shipping over $49, easy returns. We're exceptionally customer focused when it comes to making sure that they get taken care of, no matter the situation ultimately. But the lifetime replacement guarantee, we basically warranty everything that we sell for as long as you own your car. And it's not a gimmick, it's not anything else, it really does happen. So as long as you can put it back into a container and get it back to us, we'll return it. We'll basically warranty it for you. So the things that doesn't cover would be aerosols. They can't be put back into a can.
You can try.
You can try. Fuel additives, things that get burned off in your gas tank, but anything else. Brakes, brake pads, suspension arms, shocks, struts, coilovers, even oil filters, things like that. So it's pretty simple the way it works. Say you have a car that you buy an oil change kit for, put it in the car, run 5,000 miles, go online, buy another kit, do the change, take that old oil, put it into the new container and ship it back to us, and then we will credit you back.
I mean, I love that. That's great. And it keeps people on the racetrack. There's a whole bunch of people here that are running parts purchased from FCP Euro, which is always really cool to see. You guys also have a racing program and a bit of a change for this year as well, running in the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge Series with a Mercedes AMG GT4 car. Yep. And that just kicked off a couple weeks ago at Mid-Ohio, correct?
It did. Mid-Ohio was our first race. We skipped the first two at Daytona and Sebring. So debuted at Mid-Ohio. We qualified 12th out of about 21 cars, which we were very happy with. Michelin Pilot Challenge is extremely competitive. So to be able to qualify 12th was great. We ultimately came away with a top 10, coming home in 10th place, which, again, we're super ecstatic for that. Really happy for that program. And great, as Nate and Michael, who both work for FCP Euro and are both of our drivers in that series, as they continue to come up to speed with the car and the team comes up to speed with the car, hopefully we'll be able to put on some shows later this year.
Oh, really excited! And one of the drivers driver that's leading the race has experience in the Michelin Pilot Challenge Series. Tom O'Gorman was very successful there. Won 4 races in the TCR category back in 2018 and 2019, and has found his way into GLTC, where he has found a lot of success. Tom's story was really interesting. He originally had just sort of been jumping in other people's cars. That he bought this S2000 last year, and his first race with it, I believe, was back at Mid-Ohio last year. And it had the original Honda S2000 motor in it. It was reasonably okay. He was running on street tires. Then he put the K-swap in it over the winter after he blew it up at NOLA. And so far, that car has been mighty, mighty quick. Now he's running on slick tires, and he's brought that thing right to the front. And he was telling me earlier that he can still pull weight out of that car. So that's really scary for everybody else in the field. That is,
there's no doubt that Tom's a good pair of hands. Like, he's always been fast, and it's fun watching him in IMSA and things like that. And we sell European car parts. I'm generally a European car guy, but those S2000s are kind of hard to not admire and be a little envious at how quick they are.
It's really funny. The S2000 camp, they're such popular track cars because they're plentiful in the aftermarket. They've got tons of parts available for them. But the Andy Smedgard Motorsports crew, they've got a handful of them down there in the paddock area. There's 5 or 6 of them lined up, and there's still more coming from what I understand. They got their time attack cars all lined up over there as well. So they've really got those cars figured out and pretty reliable, which is really cool to see. But the S2000's been a popular car choice. We mentioned the M3. That's a car that we've seen a handful of times. Kerry James, Ryan Upham running that platform. Honda Civics, we got Eric Cattell in the 1992. We've got DJ Alessandrini in a 2006 Civic Si. Now, Alessandrini was also trying the brand new Goodyear Racing Slick this weekend, which a lot of the rumors around that tire had speculated that it would be a lot faster than the Hoosier Racing Slick, the R7. We haven't really seen that to be the case this weekend, which is interesting.
I saw him post up about that on social media, and I was curious to see how he would do against the Hoosier. The Hoosier is kind of the gold standard in this level of racing and club racing, and it could be perhaps the conditions, could be some kind of rubber compatibility issue, or just maybe even finding out what the tire likes. Every tire is very different. If you talk about the Michelin tires we run compared to the Pirellis we've run previously in other programs, the tires want completely different setups and everything, and so it might just take a little time for him to kind of dial it in on the SI.
And I'm sure a lot of people are watching that to see. I know they're slightly cheaper as well, so that's the almighty dollar is going to factor into a lot of those decisions. Also, a whole bunch of drivers that are running the Falken RT660. That's a really popular street tire for this class, and that is a tire that you can be really competitive on if you build your car to a spec where you can run a wide enough tire to accommodate that. I know that Jeremy Swenson's also run a Yokohama street tire. I believe that's what he won on earlier today. The struggle with Swenson's car is how heavy it is. Those tires get real hot real fast, and he just fires out of the gate really good, and then he falls back into traffic a little bit later. But so many ways to build a GLTC car, so many different formulas, and in the past we're like, okay, all right, K-swapping the car, that's the formula. That was the formula, not anymore. You can pretty much be successful in anything.
Yeah, it's really cool, and to see just the incredible range of cars, the different range of horsepower, just the difference in tires. You know, Ben on his Mini is running, I think, a 225, and then you see, you know, the Corvettes and the M3s with these big tires, and you wonder how in the world is that car going to be competitive with, you know, a proper race car.
Sure.
And somehow they kind of stick it all together, and it all works. The formula that Adam and the GLTC Rules Committee have put together is really outstanding, to be honest with you.
I mean, it goes to show. I mean, we've got the maximum amount of cars that we can run here at Gingerman Raceway this weekend, and we saw that at Midwest last year, and I'm sure we'll see it again this year. This class has exploded in popularity all across the Midwest. The field sizes are usually well over 35, 40 cars, so definitely not struggling to get participants, which is great. The other thing that I've noticed is, just compared to here a year ago, how much closer the entire field is. The quality of the field has risen immensely. So many people have started to figure out their builds and build them up to a slightly higher competitive spec, and it's amazing how much tighter qualifying was on Friday than it was here a year ago. So pretty phenomenal to see that. We continue to be under a red flag here for Ben Dozman's the Acura RSX. That car had a motor let go between turns 2 and 3, so some oil cleanup potentially to do, and we expect that we should get a green flag here and finish out this race. Sunset here in South Haven, Michigan. We're on the very far west edge of Eastern time, so sunset isn't till almost 10 o'clock here tonight, so we got plenty of time.
Yeah, it's kind of trippy, you know, coming from Connecticut. We drove out here, and you know, I think last night it was around 9:30 or something like that. It was still light outside, and we couldn't figure out what time it was. You know, the really late sunsets here are certainly advantageous when it comes to you know, being able to stop a race like this and get it back underway.
I love this. You see the track workers out there working really hard, putting the elbow grease in to get the grease off of the racetrack, getting the oil dry down and having a look at everything. And there's Adam Jabay there in the cowboy hat on the far right, walking next to the truck, making sure that the track is safe for the competitors. And I guess the good news is that it looks like Ben Dozman was able to get reasonably offline on the straightaway. So even if this doesn't get completely cleaned up, you should be able to stay out of it pretty well. So that's good. That's good to see. And Ben did a good job. You can see where the oil stream veers off to the right after he realized he was laying down oil, got off into the grass. So that was really good for Ben Dozman. A lot of times, if you don't realize you're leaking oil, you'll drag the car around the entire track, and then cleanup process will take 2 hours, and that would be a bad time.
Yeah, absolutely. Super heads-up driving there, and that's kind of something that, you know, we see in the series in general. You know, really tight racing, really close racing, but everybody's stays pretty aware, and you end up ultimately, you know, minimizing. When you have trouble like this, you kind of, you know, do the best to minimize the downtime or whatever it might be, and you know, get everybody back underway.
And full course yellows are not a super common sight in GLTC. I can count on one hand the number of multi-car incidents we've had in 3 years of action. So we don't see a lot of full course yellows. What it does do is essentially divides this race in half, and it's going to leave a lot of opportunity for drivers to sort of reset their race. We started double file, so everyone was bunched up, but now single file, you've got a lot more mobility on the front straightaway to kind of move around and build a run. Once the green flag flies in GLTC, unlike a lot of other racing series where you can't pass until the start-finish line, when the green flag is out, you can race. Whether you're in turn 10, turn 11, wherever you are, when the green flag flies, you're good to go. So that's going to open up a lot of opportunity. You cannot jump the start, obviously, but once the green flag is out, you can build a run and pass 10 cars before you get to the start-finish line if you want, which is going to create an interesting dynamic for the restart. Car is up on the rollback, and we should get the rest of that oil dry scrubbed off here shortly. And with the late sunset time, I would expect that the timer has also stopped, so we should get the rest of our race. We were about 2 or 3 laps in, so I'd expect 4 or 5 remaining in this race.
Yeah, I would be curious to see how the time sitting in pits affects some of the cars in terms of you know, heat soak, if any of them are turbocharged. I'm not sure if any of them are at this point, but you know, just tire temps and things like that. you kind of sit there, you're hot, you're in the car, waiting to go back out. So I'll be curious to see who can really take advantage of that and whose equipment is kind of going to be ready right from the rip compared to something that might come up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, it's certainly a concern every time that you shut your car off and you're sort of sitting there on pit lane, especially for forced induction cars. I don't believe that we have a whole lot of those in GLTC, partially because the general power area where you're at, the popular formats don't really need the forced induction to be in the thick of it. So that's not something we see a whole lot of. But if you have a turbocharger or a supercharger or something like that, you will have to be concerned with heat soak and that sort of thing. The other thing is just also what it does mentally. You're sitting around in the pits. You're sort of planning. All right, what did I just do? What can I do in my current spot? You're evaluating your competitors, who you're around, and you're sort of planning out the chess moves five moves in advance.
Yeah, definitely. It's, you know, I'd imagine that some of the more experienced drivers are probably sitting there really plotting it out to see what they can take advantage of and, you know, make the most of the next couple of laps.
The safety truck almost dropped a wheel there. I was watching him get real close to the edge of the line there.
Yeah.
The other thing that has made this a little bit of a challenge here this weekend is we've got Drift back with us, which is great. We love watching our Slidey Bros go for some skids. The challenge, though, is that they leave a lot of rubber on the racetrack. That rubber gets really hot. It's also in very strange lines because of the lines that they're taking. So I'm sure that can lead to a couple issues. I talked to Emil Tab earlier. He went off in turn number 1. He said there were just marbles everywhere from the drift cars in the prior session. So that's another concern. Also, when you get back down to pace speed, your tires are going to pick up all that clag, all that stuff that's shredded off the tires. And when you go back out there, you better clean your tires off really, really well before you get back to green.
Yeah, I actually noticed that in my car. I'm running the Falken RT660s on my GTI. They're great tires. I love them. Super grippy. And with those, I noticed I was getting a lot of pickup. And then I changed over, you know, pulled the wheels off to change some brake pads. And there's an enormous amount of pickup inside the wheel. So I think it's definitely a lot of marbles out there, and that's always going to be a challenge for grip until you can get everything cleaned off.
You got someone going for a ride here with the that's Grant that's helping us out here with the broom and brush, getting dragged over the oil dry. This is an unorthodox way to do that, but
that has to be a Gingerman invention, maybe. I'm not sure. I've not seen that myself.
I kind of like it though. I mean that's a unique way to do it. I mean, no need to drag a whole bunch of weights around. You can get a guy to just sit on it for you.
Yeah, seriously.
So once we brush this all off, I actually would expect, it wouldn't be shocking to me if when we get back rolling under full course yellow, if the race director asks that the drivers kind of weave through it just to kind of pick it up and disperse it a little bit, just that there's not a massive amount of it coming back through when you go back to green. Kicks up a big cloud because visibility can be an issue as well. So they might have them run through it. See NASCAR doing that a lot just to kind of disperse all the oil dry so it doesn't create a big plume.
Yeah, the other thing too is that, you know, that's obviously he got offline as quickly as he could, but if somebody was going in for a pass going into that turn, that's turn 3, I believe.
Yep.
You know, if you're on the inside, you're coming up and you've got that oil dry on your tires, you might have previously had a lot more traction, go up the inside and then lose it and then potentially have an incident. So yeah, definitely would want to get that off the racing track as much as possible.
And turn 3 is one of the tightest corners on the racetrack as well. So the speed difference between where you begin your braking point and your min speed in the corner is pretty significant. So you want to make sure that you're braking. I also mentioned earlier that Aaron Lichty is one of the few cars out here towards the pointy end of the field that doesn't have ABS. So if you lose grip, lock up the tires, then you're along for a real ride. That's one thing that we've seen a lot of is a lot of drivers switching over to ABS, a lot of drivers using BMW ABS systems, putting those in cars, which I thought was interesting. I know Eric Attil added some Honda-based ABS in his car, which I believe is working pretty well. He's running fairly decent. But a lot of ABS has come into the series lately, which is really interesting to me. I think a lot of drivers have watched this in the past, especially the rain races, and go, you know what, that might be worth the cost.
Yeah, the ABS is one of those technology pieces that absolutely ends up being helpful in the long run. I think it's the Mark 60 or MK60 BMW E46 M3 unit that everybody uses, and we actually use that in our C300 AER endurance car that we did run a couple GLTC races in, and it's a really nice system because you essentially, it's plug and play. It's a standalone OEM unit, and it works exceptionally well if you just take that and put it into a race car.
Yeah, I might be wrong about this, so Emil will have to correct me, but I think that's what Emil Tab is running in his car. He was testing it, he first put it in for COTA back in February, and he was braking full markers later than everybody else. It's just so nice to be able to basically plant the pedal to the floor and let the computer do the work for you. And especially when the conditions get a little bit crappy with with rain or something like that, it really allows you to trust your brakes a little bit more and not be super sketched out. Mid-Ohio is a track that we always get some rain at, and that place is slick always,
Yeah.
but especially in the rain. So good to have a little bit of a backup there.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, in a day like today, you know, it's been pretty warm, track temps are very high, and you have the drift drivers out there, so your grip is going to be changing, you know, throughout the day. So what you could do in, you know, an earlier session, earlier race, you may not necessarily be able to do, and the ABS kind of gives you that little bit of cushion potentially to avoid flat spotting a tire or, you know, blowing a corner completely if you have a little less grip than you anticipate.
For sure. So the cleanup is almost complete here at Gingerman Raceway for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup Spring Kickoff, race 2 of the weekend. We've got 4 races. The final race of the weekend will have a random invert for about the top 15 drivers. There's a random choice in there that can mix that up just a little bit. Speaking about the points picture just a little bit, Luke McGrew came into the weekend leading the points by about 19 over Aaron Lichty. Aaron has eaten into that lead just a little bit, and I imagine if things continue to go as they are, we might see Aaron Lichty take the points lead away, which is interesting because last year it was a battle between Aaron Lichty and Eric Catil for the season championship. We have drop races in this series, and the championship was a 4-point swing between no drop races and drop races included. So those two are going to be, again, in a head-to-head battle probably all season long, but Catil still has some work to do. Back at NOLA, the 2021 season opener, he discovered himself that he was underweight and illegal for a couple of the races that weekend and self-reported. Lots of integrity in the series, which is great, but he lost a whole bunch of points and has some work to do to dig out of that hole.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things that kind of speaks to the competitors and attendees and everybody that's sort of in that GRIDLIFE family. It's one of the reasons that you know, FCP Euro partners with GRIDLIFE. You know, it's about having fun, being out on track with your friends and buddies, everything like that. You know, you have drivers from all over the place in terms of you know, their backgrounds and everything like that, and everybody's just here to have fun, and you know, that kind of level of respect is really good to see. And
we had that here this weekend. Yeah, there's Adam Jabay giving the thumbs up, love it. But we had that same situation happen this weekend with Todd Cayley, who is currently K-swapping his S2000 and I was borrowing a friend's car to race here this weekend, so running a completely different chassis. Set up for a NASA category, was running about 230-ish horsepower. Needed to get the car down to just a little over 200. Well, there was an issue with the throttle body, and before it ended up coming here, without his knowledge, the team had removed the throttle body, and or removed the restrictor off of the throttle body, and I guess that never got communicated. So he came here and ran qualifying. And then went to the dyno and realized, uh-oh, I'm way overpowered and way underweight. So he added over 200 pounds of ballast to that car.
Wow.
And was still 10 pounds short of being legal, but he did self-report that to Renee Hines. Which Todd's a great guy, and it was just, we had a fun conversation about it. He added me to the car. I could just go ride with them and get him over and legal weight.
I mean, dynamic ballast, it's not a bad idea. Basically, put you in the car, have you do commentary live, you know.
I would love that. That'd be so fun. DJ Alessandrini has a passenger seat in his car. We chatted about that, and Adam said, heck no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Probably a little bit sketchy, potentially, in the heat of battle.
Man, I'm gonna lean into him, though. I really want to do that. That'd be super fun. So with Cayley doing that, though, he is now all set and all legal with that extra weight that he found. And I'm not exactly sure where he is in the field, but coming forward, that car is very, very fast, and Todd is extremely good. His first race in GLTC was back at Road Atlanta in 2019, which I believe is the last time Mercedes ran with FCP Euro. Yep. That was a really fun weekend. That was about a 40-car field, and that was also the last race one of the last races that we had, the HMA Racing Hot Rodyssey, the 2018 Honda Odyssey minivan that raced in GLTC, finished 18th out of the weekend out of the 38 cars, which is really cool.
Yeah, the C300 and the Hot Rodyssey, I think you called it. We just know it was an Odyssey, and that thing was unbelievable how good it was under braking. And to see that car out there racing with little Honda Civic hatchbacks, the C300 little German sedan, was just absolutely a riot.
There was a picture in Turn 1, on the inside apex of Turn 1. It's my favorite picture I've ever seen from GLTC. There's a turbocharged Mazda Miata next to a V6 Mustang next to the Honda Odyssey, and they're all 3 wide, and I thought that was the greatest picture, the perfect representation of what GLTC is. And thankfully, we just saw the HMA Racing Facebook page basically say that they pulled the car out of storage and they started running it again, getting it warmed back up, so we might see that in the future, and I don't know when it's coming back, but soon is what I understand. So I'm really, really excited to see that car back.
That would be super exciting, and it kind of speaks to, you know, what we've talked about multiple times on the broadcast, is that there are so many different kinds of cars. And really, if you're a fan of a chassis or a fan of a platform, you know, Ben, has minis, he loves minis, he's building a mini for GLTC. had that technical issue. But whatever you're into, you can build it and potentially make it competitive with the right combination of power and aero. There
was another Mini Cooper that was at some point planning on running GLTC, and I don't know where the status of this car is, but it was one of the real old classic minis.
Oh, wow.
It was going to run with a bike motor, and that would have been a lot of fun to see. So I'm hoping that car will make it out to an event at some point this year. But again, I mean, what a ride it would be to watch a Honda Odyssey race a Mini Cooper. That would be spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe half the size of that minivan. I'm not sure.
You probably fit it in the back of the Honda.
You probably could.
Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah,
do you know what the Mini makes power-wise off the top of your head?
Ben's car?
Yeah.
It's a little over 200 wheel horsepower.
Okay,
I'm not sure. Yeah, he's been kind of having some struggles with it to get it, on point, to make sure. He did a lot of changes before this race. Suspension, aero has changed, things like that. So he was kind of right on the limit in terms of horsepower to weight. But just kind of struggled with it a little bit.
200 horsepower is a lot for a Mini, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
As we roll off now, we're gonna get a reset here and go again. We probably will get maybe one more pace lap. We could go green this time by. We'll see what the lights on the pace car will be doing by the time we get to the back half of the course. The black and red and white car that just passed the center of your screen, that's Eric Jensen in his second GLTC appearance. His first was back at NCM Motorsports Park back in April. That car is an LS swapped Scion FRS. Now, I own a Scion FRS now as of a couple months ago. That platform is super, super fun. But with an LS power plant, you don't have to worry about the reliability of it so much. That's a really cool car. Eric's been performing very, very well. And his son is also running in Time Attack here this weekend, so kind of a family outing. Really, really cool to see. So glad to have Eric with us and running in the FRS.
Yeah, I saw you post that you got that FRS, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I really like those cars.
Yeah.
It's again, it's one of those cars that I look at and I'm just like, you know what? I think I like that. I wouldn't mind buying one of those. And a buddy of Ben's actually was running HPDE this weekend, and I sat in it and I was like, this feels a little too right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I got a chance to track it at Blackhawk Farms a couple weeks ago, and I was still relatively new to track driving, so I wasn't quite at the limit of the car. I've got like $85 GT radials on it, but they're 225s, a little thicker than stock. And I just had so much fun. It's such a great, well-balanced chassis. One of the cars we're missing here this weekend is Pervez Randalia, who has run an FRS in the series before. He was running with the FA20 motor. He did a whole bunch to it to make it reliable, and then had made some small tweaks to rev it a little bit higher, and that's when it popped. But he had run for 2 years with the FA20, and it was probably the fastest unmodified internal FA20 motor with the FRS in the country. It was ridiculous, and hoping that Pervez can make it back out later this year. Not sure what the plans are for that car, if it's going to get another FA20 or if it'll get a K-swap from the winning Formula guys, but either way, great chassis. Yeah, I posted a lot about mine on social media. I love it so much that it's basically the only thing that's interesting about my personality. So, so that's all that's been on social media for me for the last 3 months.
You post what you're excited about, and that's something definitely to be excited about. So.
All right, pace car off. Restarting here for GLTC race number 2 from Gingerman Raceway. Tom O'Gorman, Emil Tab, Ryan Upham, Erica Till, and Aaron Lichty. Your front 5. Green flag back in the air. Look at Emil Tab, a good run up the inside here. Will he have overlap for turn 1? Just a little bit as they get down to the left-hander. Leaves plenty of space, does O'Gorman. Now crossing back over for turn number 2. It's real tight from second on back.
Yeah, it looks like a pretty clean start for Tom. It was getting pretty close there, but really respectful with everybody giving room, and got through clean.
There's Ryan Upham, has a look up the inside of Emil Tab. Couldn't quite get overlap, though. There's Aaron Lichty right on the tailpipes. Those are your 2 front runners from the championship last year. 3 wide at the exit at turn 3. That is Luke McGrew alongside, or is that Justin Lee in the 33 car? No, that is McGrew alongside Eric Jensen, who is Chad Troop, and Jake Price behind. And there's Alessandrini at the tail of that group in the Goodyear tired Honda Civic SI. But O'Gorman leads by about 5 car lengths into turn 7, and it's getting real racy up in the front 7 here.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time to make something happen, so everybody is going to be trying their best to get ahead as quickly as they can.
Yeah, so 2 discrete groups forming here at the front. We're watching the front one on board with Eric Till there for a moment. All over the back of Ryan Upham on the run down to turn 10B. We'll see if he pops that a line. Bit of a defensive line for a moment for Upham. Moves back onto the racing line for turn 10B. Now that we're getting into where the M3 M3 is really, really solid onto this back straight here, but a bit of a bobble there at corner exit, but it's all gone here up on the straightaway. That M3 is a rocket ship.
Yeah, he really stretches it out. I was curious to see if Eric would be able to get a good dig out of that corner with that car being front-wheel drive and so much lighter, but the M3 just puts the power down and kind of scoots away.
He gained about 15 car lengths on that straightaway and caught all the way up to Emil Tab. That is really, really impressive. Upham, I believe, last year unofficially won a race before he got DQ'd for passing under the yellow. So that car is a very well-tuned chassis for this racetrack, and he's made it very, very competitive. You see the background there is Joel Morrison in the 9 Lives S2000. Just behind them, Jeremy Boysen in the 99 Acura RSX. And front 10 now stretching out. There's McGrew, Jensen, Louis Chatroop, Alessandrini now up into the mix. On board with Eric Catil and the Hybrid Racing EG. One of the nicest looking cars, not only on the outside, but on the inside. You should see Catil's engineering work to put that ABS system in. It looks like it came out of the factory like that. It's so, so well done.
Yeah, it's all about attention to detail in these things. And one of the things that you mentioned are the liveries. I got to say, everybody's stepping up their livery game. You know, you see the ASM crew.
Yep. Every
car has a variation of that same livery. It really looks great when they're all lined up, parked side by side in the paddock.
Gorman's is still yet to get it, so they're going to have more of those as the season goes on. Watch this again as we come up out of the hole in 10B. That actually, we're not quite there yet, but a bit of a smoke plume from Emil Tab there. I'm not sure if that car just... Oh, you know what that is? It's just dirt. They're just clipping the edge of the racetrack there a little bit. Some side-by-side beyond about 15th place, but O'Gorman keeping that gap fairly constant and setting a pace that he can maintain, and that's part of maybe Tom's pro experience. You don't need to lead this race by 15 seconds. You just got to cross the line first.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that, actually, because he kind of scooted out, and he's maintained that almost exact gap the entire time, so almost certainly trying to save the tires and save the brakes a little bit just in case somebody does start getting close, so he can, you know, potentially take home the win.
And there goes Ryan Upham past Emil Tab for second place, and now we'll set his sights on Tom O'Gorman for the top spot here on the front straightaway. And Emil Tab get a pretty good run out of turn number 11, has a look up the inside for turn number 1. We'll see if he can get alongside. Not quite. Grab some dirt through turn 1 to hook the car around. Eric Catil now hounding the front here in the Hybrid Racing EG through turn 2. It's a 3-car battle for second.
Yeah, it's really, really tight through there, and it looks like these guys are pretty well matched when it comes to overall pace. I'm curious to see if Upham's able to stretch it out a little bit as the car kind of gets through the rest of the track and gets to an area where it really kind of put that power down.
Looks like Emil Tab might be fading just a little bit. Catil now running the gap down there, but look at Upham. This is where the weight is going to cost Upham here. That's where Tab's going to close the gap, but it's really difficult to pass through this section of the racetrack, so they'll probably stay in line there. Catil with a great run on Tab. Had a look in the background. You see, I think that is the RSX of...
is that Jeremy Boysen?
Jeremy Boysen,
okay, yeah.
It was a little bit wide. Trying to see who was alongside him. I think it was Luke McGrew.
Yeah, I really love that RSX because that's an X-World Challenge Pro car. And it's so cool to see that out there. Somebody's still racing it, still putting it to use, which you see old race cars. It's sad to see them when they get put in mothballs. Yeah,
it's also been a really solid race car over the couple of years that Jeremy's been racing that here in the series. As you see now, Eric Catil going to tuck back in behind Emil Tab. There's a car off to the right. That is Tiffany Kelly. Now this is a really similar situation to what happened in race 1 earlier today, where we had a car off track at the exit of 10B. Caution flag is going to be out at the corner station there. Now the tricky thing is you might also get a yellow flag in turn 9. You might think you're good, but you cannot pass until you see a corner station without a yellow flag. That will be over here in turn 11. So no passing on that straightaway now, which is going to be a real challenge when your best passing zone is now gone.
That is quite a stretch, actually, and that's precisely the place where somebody that's got a good run or has a little bit more power wants to make that move, and it takes a lot of restraint to keep the red mist down and hold your line.
Look at Eric Catil all over Emil Tab again, hounding him, darting left and right in the mirrors. He knows now that with that car offline, he's not going to have the passing opportunity that he wants, so he's going to have to force it somewhere else, a skip and a hop over the curbs through turn 3. Now 3 car lengths between them. We'll see if Catil can use that front-wheel drive to claw his way forward. One of the nice advantages of front-wheel drive, you get loose, hammer down, you're going to get it, and get it under control.
Absolutely, and there's a couple spots on this track that you can really do that. Unweight the car, get the rotation in there, and then put the power down.
Through turn number 7 now, Gorman's lead expanding now to about 8 to 9 car lengths. There's a car off. That's Todd Cayley at the exit of turn number 6. That's a spin for Cayley. He'll get that car back rolling by the looks of it and get back moving. So good to see Cayley back rolling again. That's an easy spot to drop a right rear tire off at the exit of turn 5. We're rolling into turn 6. Another car off here at the exit. That is... it's a black car. I can't quite get the look at the number of that, but 10B has been a real trouble spot this weekend.
Yeah, it's been pretty slick. You know, I don't really have a frame of reference for it, but I've heard a couple other drivers saying that it's a little bit more slippery than ideal track conditions, and if you're, you know, going for every 10th, that's certainly a corner that could catch you out as it goes downhill.
Onto the front straightaway this time through. O'Gorman leads by about 8 to 9 car lengths over Ryan Upham across the line here with yellow flags all over the last couple stretches of the racetrack. White flag is out one more time around Gingerman Raceway. 2.21 miles left for O'Gorman. If he were to win this race, it'd be his 3rd win in the last 3 races. He's having a pretty good roll here this weekend.
Yeah, it's when you're hot, you're hot. You know, it's one of those things where you kind of get over that he, you know, got the initial win. All the pieces are coming together and really making his way to the front.
There is Eric Meadows in the number 3. There's Jeremy Swenson in the purple Corvette. He was one of the drivers that had a disqualification for passing under the yellow earlier while leading. He was the unofficial winner from race 1 earlier. A lot of dust all over the racetrack. With the temperatures climbing, the track has sort of dried out offline. And there's Jeremy Boysen going for a ride off in the dirt. It is really slick out there. I wonder if there might be some other fluids around, maybe from Tiffany Kelly's car, that could be causing this.
It's certainly a possibility. You know, at this point, you know, maybe everybody's just pushing that hard, but to see that many people going off, you'd think there might be something down.
So this is going to be the same exact scenario we had in race 1. A slower lapped car coming up to a yellow flag zone. You cannot pass here. We had drivers get disqualified. This is what we were worried about happening again. You cannot pass right now. They're forced to stay in line until the exit at turn 11. O'Gorman's through. He's gone. For a second, though, have to wait until you pass the next flag stand. This is absolutely critical. And at this point, they're giving up. They're going. So this is going to be a disqualification for Upham, Tab, Catil, and Aaron Lichty unless they get a grace from the race control. That's a real tough situation.
That is really, really tough. And it's, you know, if you've got your head down and you're trying to go for the win and you're fighting with those guys, you might not have seen it. You know, you put the blinders on and you're just, you know, focusing on trying to.
Oh man, I do not envy Renee Hines having to make decisions on this race. Congratulations to Tom O'Gorman. We were talking about all that. He won his 3rd race of his career. O'Gorman sweeps the first 2 races of the weekend here in GLTC. He has somehow avoided all the drama and continues to add to his collection of race wins. And this makes me so happy to see Tom so driven by competition and racing, and to see him back in victory lane again. And this time he truly earned it out front and just beat everybody.
Yeah, a racer, you know, will take a win no matter how they can take a win, but to do it on merit, I guess, or on pace, and to kind of seal the deal, really controlled the race from start to finish. He's got to feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, phenomenal performance, and that time, you know, he just controlled the race so beautifully. Never got too far out front. Never overheated the tires. Waving out the window. Again, this is exactly where he wants to be, and you know, I think it also helped that some of the competition had the DQ earlier in the weekend. Now we'll see where they shake out for race number 3. He will start on pole for the 3rd race of the weekend because your grid position for tomorrow's race 3 is set by the finishing order from race 2. So he will start on pole, and then race 4, if he wins that one, he'll get inverted somewhere in the field, and then he'll have to really pass a whole bunch of cars to make that happen. So that was it. I mean, that was a wild one with the full course caution and the whole caution issue. Man,
happy to be here for this one. You know,
yeah.
It was fun. Yeah, really curious to see if there are disqualifications from that yellow flag zone. Not only what that would mean for the weekend, but for the season championship, because those are all top drivers.
All top drivers and all in championship battle. Now, I can only speculate, but the real challenge with that situation is the drivers knew it. They had known about the situation, known about the DQs from the previous race, and they tried. They waited, and I think at some point they just said, you know what, to heck with it. We're just stacking everybody up, and we're going to go. And they might get a grace from the race director, seeing that they didn't want to do it, and then they saw that the track was safe. They had passed the incident. So I can only speculate to what the decision-making will be. But I would imagine if there is any point at which you will get you know, a pass on something like that, that would have been the situation.
Yeah, it really comes down to safety. And like you're saying, the field starts stacking up. If you can't see what's ahead, somebody starts to go off one way or the other, and you don't want any contact. You don't want collisions. You don't want bent metal. So ultimately, there may be the decision that was the safe and prudent thing to do once they were through that zone.
Right. So we'll see what happens. We'll update you tomorrow for race number 3. And again, thanks for bearing with us with the power outages here at Gingerman Raceway. A little bit of trouble. GridLife live off grid with the Comic Sans. I love that. And the drone doing some tricks. That's also really cool on the front straightaway here. So that's going to do it for the GLTC action for today. Make sure you join us again tomorrow for the final 2 races of the weekend. And wow, all sorts of cool tricks happening on camera now. I'm Kyle Heyer alongside Nathan Brown from FCP Euro. We'll join you again. I think, Nathan, you'll be with me for race number 4.
I will, yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So I'll be with you guys tomorrow again for race number 3, but race 4 will be myself and Nathan again for the final race of the weekend. Thanks for watching.
We've been powering the American road since before it was paved. Our first breakthrough in motor oil was introducing it. And we've been reinventing it ever since. From the world's first high-mileage oil to the world's first synthetic blend. There are those who change with the times, and those who drive them. Valvoline, the original motor oil.
The Falken Azenis RT660 is the enthusiast's choice for ultra-high performance. Engineered for predictable handling and stability, the RT660 provides maximum traction both on and off the track. Your competitive edge has arrived with the Falken Azenis RT660.
Hawk Performance packs 100 years of friction dynamics into every product. Backed by Carlisle Brake and Friction, the world's premier innovator of industrial brake and friction components, Hawk leverages R&D tools and motorsports experience to deliver uncompromising performance on the street. There's no reason to settle for less. Choose pads that are race proven and street legal. Find the Hawk Performance brake dealer near you at hawkperformance.com.
What's up everybody? JR here from FCP Euro. Summer is the time for car shows, road trips, track days, and so much more. And the FCP Euro Summer Sale is here to help. Use the code HEATWAVE to get $10 off an order of $125 or more, $20 off an order of $250 or more, or $50 off an order of $500 or more. Head to coupons.fcpro.com to shop the sale, and thank you for your support.